All right, man. Yeah. Let's get into a big meeting last night. Okay. Lots of people. There was a crowd outside gathered the whole time. They couldn't even let anybody in.
Oh, so that's what happened. Not everybody can go in.
Not everybody was able to get in. They filled all the seats, but did not allow for anybody to stand.
Oh.
So people would speak and then they'd go out and other people would come in and take their seats.
Nice.
And,
okay, good. So there was a solution.
I will say every time that door opened, you heard a thunderous applause from the people who supported the
very nice
50-5 opposed speakers.
Except for the 5?
Except for the 5. Yeah, they didn't get much applause.
What happens with that?
Well, you wonder. Tallies sometimes matter, but when it's 50-5, doesn't matter at all.
Yeah.
That's kind of how that works. So let's talk about it a little bit. We got into, they voted on this. They passed the first reading. We're going to second reading. That's going to happen in a couple of weeks out there at City Hall. Troy, do you have any suggestions on where we should start?
Well,
this morning, because there's a whole lot to cover, man.
And first off, I want to say thank you to two commissioners, Jim Springfield and Cynthia Garris.
They were on it, man.
They really did a good job of listening, trying to come up with a solution that works with the business people.
Yeah, not
ramming something down the business people's throat. When government starts putting their hands in business is usually when government fails us, and it's it was refreshing to hear those two speak. And Commissioner Blonder was not in the room, which I don't like because she couldn't really get the feel of the room. Because seeing the emotions of those people, that it's, they're scared.
Yeah.
They're scared that, this is, 30-40% of their salaries.
Yeah.
If the business decides, heck, it's not worth it staying open because of this new permit, or, something happens and they lose the right to be open from midnight to 12. And I liked Commissioner Springfield came up with an idea saying, hey, I want to have some of these measures tightened up. And the sound ordinance does need to be tightened up. We've been talking about it for a long time. Mm-hmm. And they should have started there. They should have started with, let's get lights in these areas where it's dark. If they truly are worried about the safety and the citizens, these items are the items that should have came first and should have been the priority. Yeah. Not rushing to get it done, and they can say whatever the hell they want, but they're rushing to get it done because of the state scrutiny that comes along with ordinances like this. The ride shares. They're worried about drunk drivers, but they haven't done anything about the ride share.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, do those things first, and then we're going to listen to you a little bit better, but don't just tell us how to run businesses and what's best for our business.
Yeah.
That's not that there's a reason why there are successful business people in town that are opposed to this, and start listening to those people.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I agree. I did appreciate you mentioned Commissioner Garris. I did appreciate, because she has worked for the city for a very, very long time, on the ground with the city for a very, very long time. And she said, there's, the restrooms are a problem. The lighting is a problem. The trash is a problem. And we have, she basically said trash is a problem because some people just don't want to put a trash can down. Some people don't want an extra.
Well, they don't want to pick it up.
Right.
They don't want to pick it up. The city, she said that when she said something to them, the city person told her, I don't want to pick it up.
Right. And
that's I was like, wow.
Are we not fixing the problems inside the city first? We could be addressing so much of this just by doing some of that. I think there were some great points brought up, and your sentiment from last week, Troy, was echoed a couple of times. And I think this is one of the best points against this ordinance, and that is the hesitancy that this will create.
Yeah.
And we already saw an example of that. A woman who was a manager, I believe, of Prohibition Kitchen, came up and spoke and said there was somebody who was having an emergency outside their doors. Yeah. And this isn't even in place yet, and they were hesitant to get law enforcement and EMTs involved.
Wow, really?
That's a strike
because the last meeting, it showed like spots where the calls took place.
Yeah.
So and it identified like basically where they're at. They're like, I don't want another spot on my record. Right. And it was a very good point. We don't want people hesitating when they need help.
Right.
Law enforcement doesn't want that. And this ordinance is going to create some of that. And, they keep talking about the misinformation. Yeah, I understand that, it's not going to close it down. But you know what? It's an added permit. You know how hard it is to get a damn permit in the city?
Right. Yeah. And a permit that they can yank. A permit that they can yank beyond the business's control in many instances. If something happens outside of a business and if the blame falls on that business, that's a strike. And that's one strike more towards getting that permit yanked. I
mean, what's the liability on the city? And I don't know this. And I, what's the liability on the city? They put this ordinance in place and someone does hesitate to call and something bad happens. And that's
scary.
And now is the city liable because they put this in place and they created the hesitation? That's there's so many holes in this. It's not ready. It's just not ready. And, to clean up some things, a lot of people got up there that you can tell they hadn't read it. It's not about the money. It's about the control. Right. So understand the two differences. It's definitely not about the money. There's, it's only $139. Okay. That's great. It's only,
any business owner downtown can pay.
But don't tell me, okay, I'm paying you $139 so you control my decisions.
Right. Right. And that's what it opens the door to. That's what people are scared of.
I have millions of dollars invested in this business, but I'm going to give you $139 so you can tell me how to run
no stake in the game.
Yeah.
Right.
With no stake in the game.
And that's not how business is supposed to work. And I appreciate Jim Springfield coming on last week. I mean, we
all do. Yeah.
We put him through it and he handled it and he listened to a lot of people that had called.
Yes.
And he's still, it doesn't make him less compassionate to the residents that have this problem. The problem is the sound.
Yeah.
And that
seemed to be the biggest complaint from people who were opposed to this was the sound.
Yeah.
And why are we not addressing this? That's an easy thing for a sound ordinance that's already on the books, right? That we just have to enforce.
Yeah. I mean, you have the flu, but we're going to cut off your right hand.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, fix the real problems. And I was really happy to see the owner of the British pub come out and clear up his situation because he was called out in the previous meeting, blaming it on his pub, when the tragic shooting that took place.
Yeah.
But neither one of those people were in his pub. It happened in proximity to his pub.
Yeah. Right. Right outside his pub.
But the mayor multiple times used that as an example of being a bad player. Right. And the reason why we have to have it. Yeah. Right. And there was a speaker who spoke about a person who had a drunk driving thing. I found out that actually happened a little earlier in the morning.
Yes.
But she wasn't even at a bar downtown.
No, she wasn't.
From the beach, right?
She came to the beach.
Came from the beach.
Right.
Right. So the arguments for this are actually fairly easily debunked. At least most of the arguments that we heard last night.
She was even stopped, and then she decided to proceed to go. Like they actually detained, like they stopped her. So like that's the whole argument is why blame downtown? She didn't even come from downtown establishment.
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So this thing is full of holes, but again, still they're trying to ram it through. And boy, it was. I'll tell you who had some great statistics was Karen Zander.
Oh yeah, those percentages. Those percentages were shocking.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you had the tally sheet or whatever it was, but I mean it came down to throughout the entire year in that zone that they're targeting, and they're targeting the zone. There were a total of 51 calls that were related to what they're trying to do with the nightlife ordinance. 51.
Yeah.
For the entire year. It was like
out of 1,100 total calls, 51 of those. And actually we're
associated with the bars and restaurants.
Yeah. Yeah. And we've got that clip, but we may just play that in a second because I thought that was one of the highlights of the night. Some of the best points made So I did make sure to clip that out because Karen explained it much better than I think I could this morning.
She gave the sheets to the commission.
Yeah.
And thank you everybody for coming, because it's challenging to take time out of your hands, out of your day. But one of the things Commissioner Garris said was, we did a workshop at 9:00 in the morning for people that stay up until 2 and 3.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, true.
Yeah. And
don't say you're trying to get the voice of the people when you do that. That's almost purposely trying to isolate them.
And she also pointed out that it was very much like a commission meeting where people only got that little 3 minutes.
There was no interaction
time to talk. There was no interaction, and you got to have some interaction. Like I think it was very, very positive when Commissioner Springfield came on the show, because we were able to go back and forth. He was able to express his points, and we were able to kind of counter those and say, but have you guys considered this? And are you guys looking at this? And it was clear that he did consider some of that. He brought up some of the points that we had talked about on the show in his arguments last night. So that back and forth is so important, and they're saying they want to do that now, and that
But you didn't get the same vibe from the mayor. Apparently, I'm just reading through the blogs that there was a lot of paper staring and not a lot of connecting with the people that we're actually talking to.
Well, she went in, already had her mind made up.
Yeah,
she was not listening to that. I mean, last time she kept a scoreboard.
Wow.
What she called the workshop, she kept a scoreboard, and it was like 10-4 in her favor.
Right.
Last night it was 55 or 50 to 5. 50 to 5.
Not in her favor.
And I guarantee you there was
bringing up a towel.
There was another 20 that went home because it was taking so long. They were outside.
And there was a thunderstorm, and people still stayed through the thunderstorm outside to speak.
Yeah.
They really did, man. People were very, very passionate.
So really, the mayor, like the 50 to 5, that means nothing to them?
Not if it doesn't support their argument.
Golly.
No.
When the vice mayor was still struggling with the decision, the mayor, just was directly just selling and overselling this. And when you see someone overselling like this, it's like a snake oil salesman to me. Like if you have to sell that hard, then it's not right.
Yeah.
If you're selling that hard, it's not right.
Well, because the vice mayor, just to give people some context who weren't there and who weren't listening, the vice mayor was very on the fence, which was surprising. We thought she was in lockstep with the mayor. However, she was very much on the fence and very much leaning towards, it seemed like, rejecting this. She stated that she would reject this tonight.
Really?
And then immediately following that, the mayor basically turned and faced her for 20 minutes and talked about why this needed to pass tonight.
It was
and really pressured that vote.
That's an interesting
if you Google a bully pulpit, that's what was happening. That's what was happening. And I
kind of like when my mom would kick my leg under the table if I said something stupid at dinner.
I would not be surprised if there was some leg kicking, right?
Probably.
Yeah.
All right. And Karen did just jump in, and one of the biggest things she said is the biggest 6 operators between 12 and 2 downtown account for 0.5% of the total law enforcement calls in Zone 1 in 2022. 0.5%.
Yeah. And
so 99.5 are coming from elsewhere.
And also pointed out that crime is going down, has been going down since 2018. A couple more points, and I do want to play that clip. But I will say it's, the mayor wonders why nobody wants to talk to her about this. Well, we know the mayor's mind is made up. We know the mayor is not looking to listen to people and their concerns. The mayor's looking to sell this. She wants to sell this. And if you meet with the mayor, she's going to try and give you a sales pitch on it. People don't want to talk to the mayor about her sales pitch.
No.
People want to make sure she understands their concerns, and that's not happening.
And I was able, and I will tell you this: the mayor did meet with me and Mr. Patel, and we had a good conversation. And some of the questions that were asked, but.
Let's be honest, you guys are powerful guys.
But the thing that was said wrong in there, and she said, "Oh, well, that's not part of it." Our alcohol license is for our entire property. It's not just dedicated in one region.
So if I'm on a balcony, I throw a bottle.
And that's where I could lose. And she thought,
Whoa.
and when she asked, and the way she asked the county or the city attorney, that's right. It's isolated. Like if it's Meehan's or Prohibition Kitchen or something like that, it's within the realm of their property.
Yeah.
But where our hotels are, that we spread the entire property, and that's a big space.
Totally, yeah.
You know, so like when we were talking about some of the things just don't fit into all these scenarios. The other one is like guys like south of Philly.
Mm-hmm.
They serve beer,
Yeah.
and they're open from 12 to 2.
Yeah.
And they've had 0 incidents. And now they're having to do all these extra steps. And the way it's written, they serve food after 2. I don't think the way this ordinance is written, they can do anything after 2.
Yeah.
So what happens to those businesses like Taco Shop and south of Philly? Because they both have beer in their fridges. I mean, obviously they can't sell it after 2, and they don't. But because there's state laws in place.
In Detroit, we had a code word that we would say, "I want the special" or something.
Yeah.
But sounds like we're going back to prohibition.
It does open up the doors for people to try and skirt this and get around this. Unfortunately.
What if, okay, I'm just going to be radical here. What if like everybody just doesn't pay for the permit? Like what if they just carry on with life, and what happens? What are the ramifications? Like how are they going to shut down? Can they really?
Yeah, I mean they would have legal precedents on their side, but I mean it would turn very ugly quickly.
And expensive.
Well, it is already ugly pretty quickly.
Well, I mean there's one more chance at it. And you know that happens in 2 weeks, and the fact that they're trying to push it before the October 1, they can say
that's stupid.
You know, there's this, I can't say the saying, but you know, we know when you're trying to fool us.
Yeah.
You know,
the
pull the wool over
stupid.
my eyes.
People aren't stupid, man.
Yeah, and don't say you're not doing that, because it's obvious you are.
Yeah.
It could have been it could have been tabled and cleaned up, but you know,
because almost all the commissioners, even Nancy Sikes-Kline, expressed concerns about some of the things in there. So it's not done yet. It's not ready yet. I don't think it's ready for the second reading yet. And a lot of commissioners expressed that. I will say the Business Owners Association has a good lawyer on their side.
Yeah.
Who brought up some great points last night.
Yeah, no, and like there's, you know, Roxanne, I felt like Roxanne listened. I felt like I think Roxanne went in thinking one thing, and she listened to the people, which is what our representatives should do. And I think she was tormented by it, and I don't think she's comfortable with her decision today.
Right.
And because of that, we shouldn't put a law in place that it's much harder to unwind than to put in place there. So.
Yeah, what does that? Well, it's. I guess it's tough to say at this point that if it does go into effect, what has to happen to revoke it? I mean, I would have to imagine people have to get voted out, new people have to get voted in, somebody has to bring
ordinance has to be removed.
Right.
It's same process in reverse.
Yeah.
Same process in reverse, and you know, there's, like I said, and I live downtown. I have business downtown. I'm invested. And I think I have a voice in it. I think there's other priorities. I sat on the chair. I was the chairman of that RHI committee they kept bringing up.
Right.
I was the chairman on that. And when we went around, they were like, "You guys don't have the problem we were normally used to seeing."
Yeah.
And you know the things.
And who were they, by the way? Who was this kind of group?
RHI? It's Responsible Hospitality Inc.
So this is like a nationwide or a regional?
And I think the city paid between $50,000 and $80,000 for this study, and then they didn't use.
They didn't like what it said.
They picked and choose the ones they wanted to use out of it.
Yeah,
which isn't unusual. But the important ones were lighting, bathrooms, trash cans, and ride share.
This is all in the city. Things that can be fixed well outside the scope of this ordinance.
Yeah. So, I mean, and that's where I'm at. I was like, let's take care of these. Let's take care of those 4.
Yeah.
And then us address, do we still need these?
Right. Do we still need them?
You know, I mean, and then do we still need this ordinance? And if we need this ordinance, you know, threaten to shut somebody down after they have invested their life savings.
This is a dream for people. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it's just not right.
No.
Which is why I did, again, appreciate Commissioner Springfield saying, look, I want to take the option off the table to shut people down.
Mm-hmm.
You know, let's see if we can do a fine structure. Let's do something like that. But we can't take away people's businesses. And I don't care what the commission says. This opens the door for people's businesses, their livelihood to be just taken away from them.
And what I heard was the first penalty is $250. Every penalty after that's $500. You're hitting somebody $500 every night. That business is going to figure out how to get it right
Quickly.
You know, they're not going to continue to pay $500.
No.
To get
500 drinks. You think $1 tip. You know what I mean? Like, it's a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, man, it was. I would. A lot of people were starting to get really encouraged by the vice mayor's comments because it did seem like she was ready to oppose it, and then unfortunately she was just talked into doing otherwise. It seemed.
I'm
like.
busting to see this clip though. You haven't seen that?
Yes. Do you have headphones over there?
I do.
I got mine in the car.
Oh,
I was there, so I know.
Okay, Blake, if we could run that clip, I think it's a very important information in there. Very, very good for people to know and understand.
I gotta remember to bring my earbuds back in.
Yeah, right. All right. Let's see.
I love it, Karen.
We got that, Blake?
It's 2023-27. When I sat on the boards, I always wanted hard facts and real data that made for more responsible decision making. Anecdotal evidence may or may not be accurate, and so sometimes there's much more to the story. So I looked at this as a board member. What would I want? As you know, SAPD doesn't have its own dispatch. They haven't had it for years. SJSO handles all calls for the city. So I'm grateful for the sheriff's office. They sat down with me. They read through the ordinance together with me. They tried to correctly align the concerns within the ordinance with the call data. We tried to pull as accurately as possible data reflecting issues stated as justifications and concerns about the volume of calls and issues. Let me explain. Zone 1 includes downtown, but not only the downtown core. Zone 4 includes the island portion of the city. The top part of the chart covers all hours, the bottom, midnight to 2. Complaint nature is what the dispatcher codes it as when the call comes in. Disposition code, which is more accurate, is what goes on the report that the officer does. Year 2022, all hours, Zone 1, disposition codes, 653. Year 2022, all hours, Zone 1, all calls, 17,324. Year 2022, midnight to 2 a.m., Zone 1, disposition code, 51 total calls. That's it for the entire year.
Wow.
Year 2022, midnight to 2 a.m., all calls, 1182. All calls would be my cat got stuck up in a tree or something. The disposition codes would match what the sheriff's office felt would be reflected in this ordinance. Year 2022, all hours, Zone 1 by disposition code is 3.8% of your total calls. Year 2022, midnight to 2, Zone 1 by disposition code is 4.3% of your total calls. Deleting 2020 as a COVID year, midnight to 2 a.m., all calls went down year over year since 2018 significantly. 1182 year 2022 versus 1913 year 2018. So our population has exponentially grown, calls have gone down. I pulled 6 of the biggest operators I could think of downtown. Trade winds 2022 accounted for 0.1% of all calls in the zone. Prohibition Kitchen accounted for 0.05% of all calls in the zone. And the 6 total locations I pulled accounted for half
Thank you very
of a
much.
percent of the total calls.
So those numbers don't illustrate a dangerous situation. They don't illustrate an unsafe, a drunken, disorderly downtown. Calls go down year over year. I mean, it's just What are we doing? That was a mic drop moment.
Well,
I felt like
the thing is, and this is, and Karen sat on the planning and zoning board, and she's a research person, but she took the time to get with the sheriff department who handles all the calls.
Yeah.
Sat down with them so that she got a good explanation from them.
Right.
About, okay, what's the difference between this call and this
How to
call?
interpret it, yes.
And that's the information she came up with. And yet we're still here.
Mm-hmm.
They're saying that the police department's overwhelmed at this point with those calls.
Have they even spoken to them? Have they even spoken to them?
I mean, it doesn't seem. You have to imagine they have, but it doesn't feel like
it. Doesn't feel like it at all, right?
Because that is not overwhelmed.
Yeah,
that's not a police department that's overwhelmed.
No,
and that's and I just. Take care of the important stuff first, and this is not it, and this is be enforced, and hopefully Roxanne gets a little more of the numbers in hand. And by the way, Commissioner Blonder, I hope you have a quick recovery. I mean, I think that was part of the reason why she couldn't be there. So I don't want to say that I didn't want it to sound like she just
wasn't there. Yeah.
She skipped out on a tough meeting. That was not the reason. I don't want it to come off that way. But Commissioner Horvath, we saw you listening.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we want you to continue to listen.
Yeah.
And that's, we're not gonna bully you, but we want you to continue to listen and find the right result.
True.
And that's the only way we can say it. And I appreciate where she was at the last meeting, where she got to this meeting, because that means she did care.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so
next meeting is what? The 24th? Did I hear that correctly?
Yes.
24th. But they are going to try and have another workshop, I think, before that time. They're going to, one thing that Commissioner Horvath did say was that she really wants a chance to hear from each and every business owner who wants their voice heard. So hopefully they schedule this at a time that is convenient for the folks that this impacts the most, instead of legitimately scheduling it at the worst possible time for the folks who are affected the most by this.
Well, if you own one of those establishments, there really isn't a great time because you're constantly doing something for your business. So,
that's true. But 9 in the morning is probably the worst time.
Probably the worst time. Yeah.
Probably the ups. And it's not like they didn't know that.
True.
And we can't
choice,
just say that these guys are so ignorant that they didn't understand that. And if they are, what are they doing making rules for us? We know you guys are not that ignorant. We understand. So this is going to be it's going to be a lot, man. And I don't know. There's no clear indication of how this is going to turn out. I don't think any of us can sit here at this table and say, well, this is how it's going to end. No. This is how it's going to end. So we'll definitely be keeping up with it. A lot of people will be keeping up with it. And nobody who's keeping up with it is dumb. So let's stop treating people in the public like they're dumb. Okay?
Yeah.
That's my biggest plea is let's stop treating everybody like they're dumb. Come to the table, listen to folks, really try to understand their concerns. Even if you can't put yourself in their shoes because you've never been there, just try.
You guys got called out twice.
I think I got called out more than that.
Really?
Pete got called out twice. I got attached with Pete, but I got thrown under there a couple different times.
But if she's not going to be listening to a meeting of 50 to 5, what does it say that she's going to come on here and we're going to, you know what I mean? Is she really going to listen or no?
And some people say she did meet with me last week. So I mean, I have to say,
did she give you eye contact?
She took.
Seriously.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, we had a conversation.
I don't like that.
How did that feel to you though, Troy? Did it feel like you were being listened to, or did it feel like you were being sold?
Appeased.
See, that's
But I mean, there's other things that we talked about that were important, not just the ordinance, and they're the city's doing some things right, like what they did with the property for the homeless and where they're trying to create that hub. They're doing some things right, but their order of operation and the intent of this might be okay, but the ordinance itself has too many holes in it, and it's going to open us up for more situations than what's being created right now.
Yeah.
So the intent, I think, is there, but the ordinance isn't ready.
Yeah.
It's just not ready. Take care of the lights, take care of the trash cans, take care of the bathrooms, and take care of the ride share. And then let's talk about this.
And let's truly collaborate with business owners.
Because I want to see what those items change and how some of the other, and take care of the sound.
Yeah. Yeah.
And take care of the sound. There's 5 things ahead of this ordinance, but don't tell me you're not trying to push this, because no one's believing that.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
No one's believing that.
And nobody's dumb.
No.
Nobody's dumb.
But again, thank you to Springfield for coming in, listening to the people, and Commissioner Garris, you're a rock star.
Yeah.
She is.
She hit it out of the park, man. And again, she has so much of that on the ground experience with the city, not being mainly in a non-politician role. And so many other folks, a couple of the other folks on that commission have just been in a political role for a very, very long time in downtown St. Augustine. It's just causing some to be a little bit out of touch, I think.
Yeah. And they kept bashing social media, but guess what?
That's where all the information is.
Guess who you're representing?
Right.
Those people.
Right.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. They're not bots. They're not trolls.
No. They're real.
Right.
They're real.
You saw them last night.
Yeah.
They were in the room with you last night.
Yeah. And some people may not have all the information right, but many people do. Again, most people aren't dumb. They can read, they can understand what's going on, and they can read between the lines.
My last question, do you think that they expected the wave of people that showed up?
Probably.
Yeah, I think so.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
I think so. And it's going to be bigger. It's going to be bigger next time.
It needs to be.
It needs to be.
I don't want to say that and have everybody out there assume that, it's going to be huge, so I don't have to show up.
No, that's not true.
Everybody needs to keep showing up for these. I saw a couple comments online that were fairly discouraging, saying, well, this is how the city operates. It's no use showing up. No, I think Roxanne Horvath's comments proved that there's a use in showing up, because she was almost convinced last night that this shouldn't move on. And that's because of all the very intelligent, compassionate pleas to please not put my business on the line for politics.
Yeah. And Rebecca just hit a comment that I thought was very, very, very well done. The woman who talked about the ice cream.
Yeah.
The woman who talked about the ice cream and how that causes a bigger mess than anything else.
Yeah.
Because if you walk down St. George Street, you're going to see an ice cream cone upside down, probably about every 30 feet.
Yeah.
So.
That's true. All right, man. So it was definitely an interesting one to be at. We had fun. We got to sit back and eat some popcorn.
Yeah. I wish we did have popcorn.
That would have been way better. To have some popcorn, something to eat in that multi-hour long meeting. What'd that go from 5 to like 9:30? I mean, it was.
I'm glad I used the restroom before, because if you left the room, you lost your seat.
I know. I had to go at the end. I had to wait till the end.
Yeah.
Just run out and use the restroom, man, because it was
where it depends.
She should have.
That's what I said.
If I would have known.
I had on my astronaut shorts.
There you go. Oh man. So
we'll see how it plays out.
We'll see how it plays out. We'll be talking to some folks along the way. We're trying to get the best understanding of this as well, obviously, so that we can convey the best information to you guys.
Well, and what I'd like to see is, and some former mayors, some former commissioners, look at this and tell me what you think.
Well, we had a former mayor speak on it last night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, and there's others out there that are still here.
Yeah.
I mean, he had the former mayor that spoke also has a direct interest in it, but I'm talking about mayors that are business people that don't have a direct interest,
Okay.
and I'm glad Mark was there, because I think that's the first time he spoke on this with the White Lion. But I would like to hear the voices of like a Tracy or a Don Critchlow, or some of those Lim Weeks, the guys that are still here, still invested in the town. Joe. There's people out there. I'd like to hear what their thoughts are. John Valdez. What's
He
his
was there.
what's his thought?
Last night at one point.
I didn't get a chance to talk to him and find out
Right. Yeah.
where he thinks, because he was on the board when it got kind of pushed back down the first time.
Yeah, I did see him out there, but he didn't stay for Wasn't out there very long. Didn't stay for comment. I think he was part of that group that just didn't get in the first wave, and probably just didn't want to hang around for a couple hours to get a seat. So of course we'll stay up on it for you, and we are glad to talk to folks from all sides on this. So obviously, we want to get all the information out there as possible, so that people in St. Johns County can make informed decisions and make informed arguments as well.